I remember there was this one guy I used to teach with, and he saw me busking on the street, and I think he was a little bit like, "Are you okay? Like, do you need money?" Like, and I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm fine. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
doing this for fun."
So we found a change of pace.
Got a bit of a different one for you today. Rod Coote is an Australian singer-songwriter currently based in Melbourne with a pretty complex story. Last month, he released his most recent EP entitled The Leap after taking a bit of a leap himself. But don't take my word for it. Take his. Enjoy. I'll start with where you are right now, which is in Europe, specifically Paris at the time of recording this. And this, I believe, marks the first time that you've ever headlined overseas. And so you've already played the majority of these dates. So just, I guess, broadly, how has it been so far?
Yeah, I feel like it's just exceeded all of my expectations. Yeah, like I've never been to Europe, even just for a holiday. So I feel like I'm kind of experiencing Europe for the first time while also playing shows, which is just, yeah, it's been awesome.
That's really cool. Something that's really stuck out to me from your bio is this emphasis that you place on storytelling through your lyrics. Quick background for this. Earlier this year, I covered a songwriting festival here in the States. It was this massive gathering of folk singer-songwriters from all over the country playing sets in these very small, intimate settings. And something that really stood out to me that all these artists did is they would, they'd tell a story and then they'd play a song, or they'd build some sort of rapport with the audience. And it became sort of these sets where it was like almost just as much talking as there was playing music. And I love that about sort of like the folk genre. It's like kind of a staple almost. Do you find that you conduct a lot of your shows this way?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like it's just so important to share the story. I think that's why sometimes a lot of people come to, folk singer-songwriter kind of shows to kind of hear the stories behind, the songs. I feel like I kind of write for like a personal cathartic kind of way, just to kind of process life in my own way. So then kind of sharing that story and, a lot of people in the audience kind of realize they're not alone in a situation.
Yeah, that's really cool. And turning it to the EP real quick, it's called The Leap, and it's very much about this sort of transitional period in your life. And I do want to come back to that. But while we're on the same topic as storytelling, I'm curious if you've spoken to people at your shows who, they hear what you have to say and they'll sort of share about similar times in your life. Have you found that at all?
Yeah. I find like sort of towards the end of the show, you start meeting people, and then sometimes people like can fully break down and just talk to you about what's been going on in their life. And so like when it first kind of happens, it can be a little bit confronting. But I think the more it happens, I realize how beautiful it is, and because music is such a release for a lot of people, and it's such a healing process. So I think it's important to like hold space and let people connect, because I probably do the same thing for my favorite artists when I go to bands, and like I have my own connection with those songs. So
yeah. Was that an adjustment for you at all? I know you said it was like a little bit like interesting at first, but I'm guessing you've probably gotten a lot better over the course of this tour.
Yeah. I guess it depends on like what your songs are about. Like I've got a few songs that are probably a bit deeper, and they're a little bit. Yeah, I kind of joke at my shows. I've got like the sad segment, and then we kind of usually finish on like the happier songs where people can clap and stuff. But yeah, I've got a few songs that mean a real lot to me. Like I've got one song called Wild Pine, and it's about my grandfather who passed away, and I always just sort of share the story behind that, and I find a lot of people connect with that, for their own meaning of their own loss and grief. So yeah, with that kind of leads to conversations around that sort of after the show. But yeah, I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's almost like I don't know, it's almost like a byproduct of putting this EP out and playing these shows. Like you just get to, it's extra, you know, you get to make that connection and in addition to like getting to play your music. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's interesting in the industry because a lot of people would just prefer to just play live, and there's some people that never play live at all. And they just sit in the studio recording, releasing music. But I think it's really, I really enjoy doing both. Like I think they've both got a place. Like playing the songs live, you can actually see, you know, real reactions from, you know, everyday people because they're connecting with it and seeing that impact, which is, yeah, it's nice.
And do you find that it's like more of a seamless transition from studio to live setting because, you know, these songs are very simple. In a lot of ways, it's just like you and your guitar. And so did you find that these songs were pretty much carved out by the time you started playing them, or have you sort of added to them and improved them as you've been playing them live?
Yeah, I think yeah, a lot of my songs on Spotify and stuff are pretty mellow. So I think sometimes people are quite surprised when they come to my show and, you know, I kind of give it a little bit more energy, or maybe there's a little bit more grit in my voice, or like I kind of put a bit more, yeah, just energy into it, which I find is quite a common thing when people sort of come after the show. They're like, oh, they're like, yeah, I was expecting this very mellow show, which it is in times, but they're also like, yeah, like you really sort of went for it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like there's some things that are really hard to replicate in live versus recording. Like,
Right.
Yeah, there's been a few songs where we've experimented with production stuff, but it's really hard to kind of get those sounds to play live or to match like an acoustic guitar.
I see.
So yeah, that's a sort of the balance that you're working with.
Okay. And talking to the EP still, it did just come out like 10 days ago or something like that. There was just that one, the title track was, I think, the only new one. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so I've noticed that you've been pretty consistent over the past several years with a lot of singles coming out. I think this is your fourth EP.
Yeah. I guess it is. Yeah. It's yeah, I haven't really like done a big album per se. Like I think just, you know, the world that we're living in, streaming and stuff. I've tried to, yeah, just make the most out of every single song that I release and pretty much make most songs a single. But I definitely do want to get to an album eventually. But yeah, I think it's really important just to keep releasing music and building my discography and just so people sort of, you know, who are just discovering my music get a bit of an idea of, you know, who I am, what type of music I make, and yeah, who I am as, I guess, as an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, I know at one point you said that After the Rain was your most vulnerable song to date when you were getting ready to put it out, and that you were almost like a little nervous to release it. And so, well, actually, first of all, like, what did the reception end up being? Was it favorable?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you do kind of write these really deep and personal songs, it's like when you write it, you're like, oh, you feel really good about it, and it's just like a nice release. And then when you actually decide to release it, you're like, geez, my family and friends are going to hear this. And like, yeah, there's that sort of that moment where you're like, oh, have I maybe been a bit too honest? But I've learned from that song and a few other songs where I just feel like it's just so honest. I feel like they're the ones that really connect with people, and I think it's really important to share. But yeah, that one's really special. It's got a bit of a personal story behind it. Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of personal stories, if you could just go a little bit more into like the background of, you know, what inspired you to make the EP, what it took. I know that's like very broad, but you've already shared quite a bit through different channels. And so whatever you are not too sick of talking about.
Yeah. So I feel like the whole EP essentially is just, yeah, pretty much my journey as a singer-songwriter. So I grew up in the countryside in Australia. Have you been to Australia before?
I have not, actually.
Yeah. We're so far away from everywhere. So
yeah, I know.
That's fair enough. Yeah, so I grew up in the countryside in a place called Tamworth, and pretty much grew up on a farm there. And yeah, I just really loved exploring nature and, you know, getting out in the rivers and lakes and stuff. But yeah, when I was about 7 years old, there was a huge drought in Australia where like it just doesn't rain for months, sometimes years on end. And yeah, my dad was a farmer and kind of put a lot of stress on our family just because, you know, was no rain, so it was really hard to grow crops and support all the livestock. And then, yeah, my mum sort of throughout her whole life, she's sort of been battling with depression pretty badly, like a bit on and off, like it sort of goes through seasons. But yeah, around this time, so she was really struggling too. So my parents split up when I was about 7. So that was pretty much it. And then I hadn't really thought about it too much until I grew up and sort of thought back to, how important and life-changing that moment was, because, yeah, we moved off the farm and our lives kind of completely changed. We moved into town. And then I just went to a local high school. I think there was only like 200 kids at my local high school. It was like a really small high school.
Yeah.
And then, after school, I sort of started playing guitar when I was about 15 or 16, just a way to pass time in the countryside, because there wasn't really heaps of things to do. And there was no like big shopping centres or anything. But that was a beautiful thing too. I feel like we're kind of left to our own devices a bit, and we'd go out in the farms and create fires and all that stuff. Campfires, sorry, not actual fires. Yeah. We're not arsonists. I really loved playing music, but I think it was more of a subconscious thing. I don't think I ever considered it as a career, because I didn't really know any other musicians who did it as a career, other than like Ed Sheeran's and So I actually like randomly joined the military in Australia straight out of school. Yeah, so I did like this like gap year program. So most people go traveling on their gap year, but I got my head shaved and pretty much signed myself up for 12 months.
Solid.
But I feel like I kind of learned a lot from that. Yeah, I still sort of played guitar and wrote songs sort of after work when I was doing that. And then the next year I went to university to study school teaching. And then I think that's when I sort of found music again and started performing at different university performances and events and stuff, and started writing music and then started releasing music. And then, people were actually listening to the music and connecting with it in their own way. And I was like, oh, wow, it was just like one of those things. And it almost felt like I went full circle, because I just loved writing music in high school. But I guess I just never, I feel like people tell you to go get a real job, go get that 9-to-5 job, and do that thing. And then I feel like I did a full circle and then, started releasing music. And I was like, why haven't I been doing this whole time? So that's kind of like the lead up to this EP, I guess. And then I was actually working as a school teacher for 2 years. And then I feel like I just got enough is enough. I'm like, I've got to do music. So I quit my job in a city kind of near Sydney. And then I moved down to Melbourne, which is kind of like a pretty big music cultural hub in Australia. So, you could say I took the leap and jumped into the unknown there. So,
You probably would have said this if there was, but I'm curious, was there like a moment that you can point to that's like, that was when I decided to take the leap?
Yeah. I feel like it was just like little moments adding up.
Sure.
Like, I think I was releasing music for a few years while I was also teaching. So I was kind of doing this Hannah Montana kind of lifestyle where I'd like teach during the day, and then sometimes I'd like fly, like if it was a Friday, I'd like teach on a Friday and then straight after work just fly to like another state in Australia, play a show, or maybe do a few shows for the weekend. And then on Monday I'm back like in the classroom.
Wow.
And some of the staff were like, weren't you in like the other side of Australia like, last night? Like, how are you back here? So I feel like I was trying to juggle, which was nice though, because I wasn't struggling, and like I still kind of had that safety net a little bit, but I kind of realized that was sort of keeping me back a little bit too. So so at the end of the year, my boss pretty much asked if I wanted to renew my contract, and I just said no. I was like, I think I need to do music. And she was really respectful. She's like, honestly, go do it. Like, life's too short. You're still so young. Just go do it.
That's great.
So I feel like it was like a big weight off my shoulders too. I just kind of made that decision, and then after that, you just have to deal with whatever comes. So
that's true. But I'm curious to know, like, I know people always say, do what you love, you'll never work another day in your life, that sort of thing. But then, of course, there's the whole, like, when it becomes a job, or when it becomes the only thing you do, it can become sort of monotonous sometimes. And not to like bring it down, and I know you just kind of did this, but have you found that your relationship with playing music and all that has changed since you've started doing it full time?
Yeah, I feel like that's probably because I never intended music to be a career straight away.
Yeah.
In my head, I still kind of don't see it as a job. Or I
Okay.
try not to. I feel like on this Europe tour, like I might talk about it a little bit more, but
Yeah.
at some moments it does feel like a job, like especially when you're trying to get to a certain city and there's like train delays or your guitar got stuck in a city that's a few thousand kilometers away.
Yeah.
And then you're just stressing out. Like then you're like, okay, maybe it might be a bit easier if I was just back in the same town as a school teacher.
Yeah.
But no, I feel like music for me has always been, I've tried to keep it in that hobby mindset of kind of like almost like me as a kid, like, just playing around after school, like writing songs. So I still try and keep that mindset. And I don't know, I feel like it's really helped. Whereas I've got a lot of musicians who just put so much emphasis on music in it, and it just becomes so big. And I just feel like they end up sort of having a bit of a different relationship with music, and it does start feeling like work. And then, when it feels like work, then maybe you might not put as much creativity or something in it. You're just kind of clocking in and clocking out.
Right.
Yeah, it is a bit of a balance. I think it's very common amongst artists in general, whether you're a photographer, a painter.
Sure.
So it's just kind of trying to balance that and sort of probably keeping it perspective too. Like, you'd be like, oh, poor me, I'm stuck in Vienna. Oh, poor me, like this sucks. But I'm also like, I think that perspective, you kind of like, no, like you're over here playing shows. Yes, maybe today might not be going your way, but in the bigger picture, you're pretty much following your dreams overseas. A lot of people dream of that. So I think it's good just to kind of keep some perspective, I guess, on those.
That's cool. I'm really glad to hear that. Out of curiosity, did you get separated from your guitar in another?
I did.
How did that happen?
Yeah, it was so stressful. I mean, I feel like you hear about these stories, but when you're kind of in it, when I was on this trip maybe 2 weeks ago, I came from Italy. I was playing so in Italy, I was just having a bit of a holiday. I was playing in Greece, and then I went to Italy just for a few days just to have a bit of a break between shows and just be a tourist, eat lots of pizza and pasta.
Yeah.
And then I had a connecting flight through Zurich. I needed to get to Amsterdam because I was playing a music festival just outside of Amsterdam. So I was flying up on the Thursday, the day before the festival, and I had to go through Switzerland, Zurich as a connecting flight, but there was like pretty bad storms. So my flight arriving into Switzerland was late. So then I missed my connecting flight to Amsterdam. So that was very stressful. And then they said, oh, don't worry, there's one more flight today, but you have to go through Vienna, which is Austria, which is like the opposite way, and then to Amsterdam. I'm like, oh, geez. Like I was looking up like buses, trains, I'm sure I was going to hire a car. Because, anyway, so I just bit the bullet and then took another flight to Vienna, which was also running late. So then when I landed, I pretty much just had to sprint down the terminal. It's like something out of a movie. It's like, no, like they're shutting the gates. Like, no.
Yeah.
So I eventually made it, which is good, on the plane. But I've got like an air tag on my guitar. So I can sort of see the icon on where my guitar is. I made it to Amsterdam. But unfortunately, as soon as I landed, I got this text from the airline saying, sorry, your guitar didn't make it. And I could see on the air tag, like, it was quite funny. I sent it to my friends. It looks like me on this side of Europe, and then like my guitar on this side just hanging by itself in Vienna. But luckily, because I had to play the festival the next day at 1 p.m. And the airline said, we'll fly your guitar over at 10 a.m. So there was only like a 3-hour window before when I had to pick up the guitar and play the music festival. But it all worked out in the end. But as you can imagine, it was just a bit of a stressful time.
I'm sure you thought it wasn't going to work out more than once.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the thing with touring, and I think just traveling in general, because it is a bit of an emotional journey and ebbs and flows. And some days you're on top of the world, like walking through a city, and you're just like, this is just amazing. Or you play like the most special show. Like I played a show in the Swiss Alps, right on the side of like a mountain cliff the other
That's
day,
so
and
cool.
it just didn't feel real. Like I'm like, how am I here? Like I grew up in this tiny little town in Australia, and now I'm playing on the side of a mountain. So they're really cool. But then you also have the massive lows where, yeah, something goes wrong. Maybe a venue might even cancel your show a few
Right.
days out. Or, there's always like those sort of things going on as well.
Yeah. And you play London tomorrow, is that right?
Yes, yeah, it is tomorrow. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've never been to London, so yeah, it'll be great to finally be there and play.
That's cool. Yeah, I went to London for it was for a day, so I'm sure you'll get probably a similar crash course
Yeah,
experience.
yeah,
Yeah, God,
yeah,
there's so
yeah.
much.
That's the other thing of touring. I feel like it sounds glamorous, but you literally you get into the city, and then sometimes you have to go and sound check quite early on in the
Mm.
afternoon. So yeah, you're not really sort of seeing a lot of the city as well. But yeah, what were your thoughts on London? Did you like London?
I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was cool how like because I've been to New York before, and you think of at least I think of New York as like a very like city where everything's going on. It's very like international or whatever. But like London is truly an international city. I heard so many languages when I was there. That was like the biggest
Yeah,
thing that I noticed.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been to New York, and yeah, I loved New York. It was just yeah, it's just
It's
amazing. It was so much
overwhelming.
to process, but yeah, it's just
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like there's so much to do, and yeah, just so much great food, and yeah,
Lots to take in. And like, yeah, like New York, it's like impossible to do London in a day, but you do it, and maybe another day, you'll have more time, but
yeah, that's right.
yeah. All right. I'll ask one last question. We've talked a lot about the EP, the tour. It's all very exciting. Like we talked about, you've taken this big leap and you're about to wrap up this big tour. This is kind of a scary question sometimes, but like, what's next? Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, I feel like naturally I've always been a person that thinks of like what's coming next,
That's good.
whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like sometimes I'm working on an EP, but I'm already thinking about my next EP. Like,
Yeah.
because I feel like you just get so excited. But yeah, I've got a music festival that I'm playing back in Australia when I get back. So I feel like that'll be a
Okay.
nice entrance back into Australia. And yeah, I've still been working on a few new songs and a new sort of body of work. So I feel like the best way is to kind of just keep going. Like always have another project that you're working on ahead.
I agree.
I think that sort of forces you first of all just to keep going because I know a lot of artists who focus on this one song and they put all their eggs in the same basket and then they release it and then they don't have anything to sort of back it up or whether it does well or it doesn't do well or
Yeah.
so I think what I've learned is just keep going. So just make sure you're always working on the next thing. But also have a break, like, don't burn yourself out.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I'm looking to do an Australian tour at the start of next year. And there's also a few support shows that are kind of in the pipes that I can't share just yet, unfortunately. But so I'm looking forward to that. And then I kind of really want to get back to Europe again next year. I think this tour's just, as I said, exceeded my expectations, and the audiences are so beautiful over here. And they also just connect to music in a very different way. Like I found, especially in Germany and Switzerland, they're just so attentive. And
Interesting.
sometimes you don't even know, like they're not, I guess it's a bit of a generalization, but in general, I've found, yeah, sometimes they're not really reacting, but as soon as you
Hmm.
finish a song, they just go wild and you're like, oh, wow, okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that'll sort of keep you pretty busy. I do a little bit of busking in Australia over the summer. So I might do a little bit of busking down in Melbourne. I found that's a great way just to sort of connect with new people and just sort of keep it fun. Just,
That's great.
not take it too seriously.
Yeah, do you feel less pressure when you're busking because you just kind of set up and it's not like everyone's there to see you?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think when I first started, it was probably one of the most daunting
Oh yeah.
things ever because, you're just sort of setting up in
Yeah.
public and anything could happen to you. Like someone could throw something at you. Like,
Yeah.
it's funny when sometimes that people that know you through something else in life, they walk past you and then they kind of like a bit surprised. So like you're on the street. Like I remember there was this one guy I used to teach with and he saw me busking on the street and I think he was little bit like, "Are you okay? Like, do you need money?" Like, and I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm fine. Like, I'm just doing this for fun." Like, um, but yeah, I really love it, and especially in Australia, we get a lot of people from the northern hemisphere, so Europe, the US, traveling to Australia because it's your winter and it's our summer.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to sort of, you know, get a bit of an overseas audience and just connect with people, and in a very real sense. Like, I think with all this viral stuff on the internet, I think like that's really great, but I feel like nothing can beat like the in-person, you know, people seeing you as a human, getting to know you, and sharing the stories about the songs. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing a bit of that over the summer.
That's great. Yeah, it's good that you have so many different things lined up. I'm definitely also the type of person who does best when I have a plan. You know, I need to know what's next. So
yeah, I feel like you can get a little existential when you don't have something coming up. You're like, was that my last ever? Like, yeah. So I think it's nice sort of having that next thing. So it kind of always keeps you on track.
Oh, I definitely get existential. So. All right. Well, I think that'll do it. I think that's time. So thanks again. I hope you have a really great rest of this tour.
Thank you. Cheers. Yeah, I'm meant to be looking around Paris today, so I've got like this big itinerary. I've only got one day here, so I'm just going to be like, Eiffel Tower, here, there.
That's awesome.
But I'm really, looking forward to it. But yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for doing this.
Rip the photos down off the wall. Sweep the dust off these timber floors. I know we both had hope for more. From dawn to dusk we just rise and fall. If I take the lead.
Hope you enjoyed that quick chat. It isn't often I talk to artists of Rod's ilk, and I really enjoyed this one for all the stories. If you want to hear more from Rod, check out The Leap wherever you stream music. And if you happen to find yourself around Melbourne in the coming months, maybe go see him play. Thanks so much for listening.
So I traveled down these southern roads. It took me away from where you held my heart. Stacked the backseat with our memories and hopes and fears, and I left you with my